Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the ASROCK B650M Pro RS. This is going to kind of incorporate the Wi-Fi version and the non-Wi-Fi version. The version I've actually bought is the non-Wi-Fi version, but I have gone ahead and taken the liberty of adding a M.2 E key. Those are really easy to install, and actually if you do want to do that to a board like this, then there is a video we've done show you how to do it. I'll link that in the video description. This board from ASRock is actually a little bit of a cracker. I picked this up from scan.co.uk here in the UK for an exceptionally good price just after the Black Friday sales of £109 on a pre-order. Currently, at the time of recording, this is currently retailing for £139.99, which seems to be the kind of normal price. But even at that price, I feel this is a fantastic motherboard, and actually I wish I'd have bought one a little bit sooner. So on today's video, we're going to go through, do the unboxing stuff, see what we get actually inside the packaging, go through a tour of the motherboard, all the ports, features and bits and pieces, which I think are going to be very useful for those of you building on the AM5 platform. And then at the end, we'll summarize and work out whether or not this is going to be suitable for your next budget build. So when it comes to the actual packaging, very simplistic. This is part of the RS range, which is the racing style or racing something or other. This type of design seems to be fitting in somewhere between the kind of lower end boards and the Steel Legends, which are starting to get a little bit more expensive, whereas they used to be a quite affordable board. I think overall it looks quite nice. It says what it supports on the front of the box. So we're looking at DDR5 support up to DDR5 7200 megatransfers per second. Although if you've got a Ryzen processor that supports that, well done, not many will. And also it supports PCI Express Gen 5. Now it only supports PCI Express Gen 5 on the primary M.2 slot, which supports NVMe drives. This is actually a really nice slot, nice and fast. I think we're missing out slightly here with not having PCI Express Gen 5 on the graphics card slot, but being as those cards at the time of making this video are still way off in the future, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And with the amount of bandwidth afforded to the PCI Express Gen 4 lanes, PCI Express Gen 5 I don't think is going to be one of those kind of must-have specs. Also, for the RGB lovers out there, it supports the polychrome sync from ASRock, and there is actually a splash of addressable RGB on the board itself, mostly up in this top corner, so not all over the place, but there is a little bit of colour should you want it. And as it says on the box, this is the B650 chipset, so this is supporting AM5 Ryzen processors, both the APUs and also the standard processors. I think this is going to be one of those really key boards when the APUs come out, when they've got their enhanced graphics capabilities, especially in the micro ATX format. I think this is going to be one of the go-to boards. On the back of the box, it goes over some of the key features. So we've got the DrMOS, so we've got an 8+2+1 VRM phase. Also, we've got the blazing M.2, as we've already mentioned, and there is a multi-layer heatsink. We've also got USB 3.2 Type-C, front and rear. And actually, there's two connections as well for USB 3.2 Type-A ports, which is quite handy. We've also got the M.2 E key for Wi-Fi. You've got the dynamic audio and a pre-installed I/O shield. Also, there is a derivative of the Realtek RTL8125 chipset on here, known as the Dragon 2.5 gig LAN. Nice to see that included. It is becoming more and more commonplace. I only wish that the 2.5 gig switches and also 2.5 gig routers were slightly more affordable. Inside the box, not a great deal. You've got the motherboard itself, instruction manual, a pair of SATA cables, 4 M.2 screws, and also an M.2 riser. And so that leaves us with a tour of the board. So we'll start off in the top left-hand corner. So we've got an 8-pin EPS connector there for your auxiliary power for your CPU. Nice and open area there, nice and easy to get to the connection. No need for an extra 4-pin or an extra 8-pin on this really. Those are more for extreme overclocking. This board will allow you to do some overclocking, but it isn't really one of those higher tier boards, although it still has a 6-layer PCB. Surrounding this area, we've got the VRM, as we said already, so this is DrMOS. These are 50 amp stages in an 8+2+1 configuration. And to keep all of that cool, we've got this rather large heatsink on here, which is done in a really nice contrasting color. Lots of fins on there to keep things nice and cool, and a slightly smaller one at the top here. Slap bang in the middle, we've got the AM5 socket, which is going to be suitable for Ryzen processors, 7000 and 8000 series, or 8000 series when they arrive. Not supporting AM4 processors, sadly, which I'm guessing someone is going to ask, but no, this is for DDR5 platform and AM5 socket processors only. Moving across, we've got a CPU fan header at the top here. For those of you wondering, there are 5 fan headers on this board in total. We've got one up here for the CPU, There's an additional one at the back here for chassis fans or additional CPU fans should you want to, and there's 3 at the bottom. All of them support various functions such as PWM, voltage control, or you can use them for AIOs. You can pretty much configure them however you want to in the ASRock BIOS or actually in the ASRock software. Moving across to the RAM slot, so 4 RAM slots, always nice to see on a micro ATX board. This is going to support up to 192 gigabytes of RAM if you have configurations of 48 gig sticks. And it supports DDR speeds up to 7200, potentially that will increase. Although as it stands at the moment, realistically for most AM5 processors, around about the 6000 megatransfers is pretty much the sweet spot. Anything over there, it's very hit and miss. And with Ryzen being somewhat of a newish platform, memory speeds and things are not always guaranteed. So do make sure you check out the QVL or the qualified vendor list of what is actually supported on this board in terms of RAM. Moving along from there, so we've got 2 RGB ports here. So one is a addressable RGB, so that's a 3-pin 5-volt addressable. That's the grey color-coded one, and the white one is a 12-volt. For those of you that are into your addressable RGB, ASRock have not let you down here. There are actually 3 individual ports on here. So we've got 1 at the top, a further 2 down the bottom. So nice and easy to hook up those addressable RGB components. Underneath that is something which is going to be an absolute godsend, especially for those of you that are building AM5 platform for the first time, and that is your Diagnostic LED. Now this is something which I really love to see on a motherboard. Yes, the hex displays are much better and they give you a little bit more idea of what is actually going on. But I think these do an excellent job as well. Do bear in mind, when you power this up for the first time or after a BIOS flash, you will take an absolute age to get to the BIOS and actually get a display on your screen. That is part and parcel of how the AM5 and the DDR5 system works. So it's nice that you've got a Diagnostic LED so you can see what is actually going on. Underneath that, our main 24-pin power connector, 2 SATA ports, so that's SATA 3.0. Just to the side of there, you've got a front panel connection for USB 3.0. And underneath that, we've also got a USB Type-C, so that's USB 3.2. Nice to see both of those in that position. Underneath that, another 2 SATA ports, so 4 in total. And underneath that, there's an M.2 slot and all of your front panel I/O, including the CMOS reset. Next to that, we've got another USB 3.2 Type A section there. So if you've got one of those cases where you've got maybe 4 USB ports on the front, then you can hook those both up at the same time. Or maybe just for wiring, cosmetically, you just want to put one in the bottom rather than having all the chunky cables up here. The choice is going to be down to you. Now before we go into the rest of the I/O along the bottom section, let's move straight up a bit and we'll take a look at what else is going on here. So we've got 3 M.2 slots on here. So the top one is the one that actually has a heat shield on it. So this is going to be PCI Express Gen5 times 4, so the fastest slot on the entire board. Heatsink comes off, there's some thermal pads on there to cool your drives, etc. Underneath that, we've got another M.2 slot, but this isn't for drives, this is purely for the Wi-Fi card, which I've gone ahead and added. If you buy the non-Wi-Fi version of this board, this socket will be empty, so you can install an E-key should you wish to. Easy to route the cables up through and then out to the back for your antenna. The other 2 M.2 slots, so these are slightly slower. So we've got the Hyper M.2. Now the Hyper M.2, PCI Express Gen 4 times 4. So that's a nice thing to have. So you've got a nice bit of speed there. And also this one over this side is PCI Express Gen 4 only times 2. So for slightly slower transfers, I think this is going to be absolutely fine. But the ability to have 3 M.2 drives on here, I think is really good for a micro ATX board. Moving back to the PCI Express slots, so we've got a PCI Express Gen 4 times 16 slot, which is also steel reinforced. That is going to be for your graphics card. No times 1 slots on this, unfortunately, but we do have an additional PCI Express Gen 3 times 4 slot. So this is actually going to be quite handy for things like capture cards, that sort of stuff. Nice to have a times 4 rather than a times 1. You can plug in times 1 slots in there, so if you've got some sort of network card or something which needs that, fine. But for things like capture cards, that is going to be really important, especially now capture cards are capturing at such high bit rates. Moving across from there, so we've got our BIOS battery, CR2032. There's also a TPM header just to the side of that, should you wish to install one yourself. And then we can go back down to the bottom. So there is a fan connector next to the USB 3.2 port. Next up, 2 USB 2.0 headers, so for standard older style USB 2s. Another 2 fan headers. Another 2 addressable RGB headers. Then also we've got a Thunderbolt port. You can get an add-in card, which is really expensive, almost the same price as the motherboard. But if you do want to add Thunderbolt to your system, there is an option to do that. And next up, you've got your HD audio connector. Audio on here, nothing too spectacular. Realtek RTL897 chipset. Still supports 7.1 audio and also includes support for the HiMic software. You've also got your audio caps there. Just underneath that is one of the bones of contention from the HDV M.2 board, which we saw previously, which looks suspiciously like an addressable RGB header, but it isn't. It's a UART port for serial devices. And that is pretty much it for the board. Not really a great deal else there. I think the board, in terms of overall looks really nice. I do like the contrast here, the racing series, where you've got your white, the black, and the silvers all kind of goes together really nice tonally. If you maybe want to go for a white case and have a black motherboard, I think it's going to work well. And if you go with a black case, I think those accents are going to stick out quite nicely as well. But let me know what you think in the comments. On the back of the board, not a great deal. There is a chip on the back, so that is, I think, a drive controller there. You've also got the backplate for your AM5 socket, but other than that, nothing else there at all. Would have been nice maybe to see another M.2 slot on the back. Those are starting to make an appearance on some boards, especially now we've got so much bandwidth available to us. And last of all, we'll take a look at the rear I/O. Now, the rear I/O has been enhanced slightly by myself, so we do have Wi-Fi on here normally, and from some of the B-roll you're probably seeing, you'll see that those are empty. This board is the non-Wi-Fi version as standard, which was the cheaper version. If you get the Wi-Fi version, normally it's going to cost you about an extra £20 or so, or like I said, you can pick up one of those Wi-Fi cards pretty cheaply on Amazon, eBay, that kind of thing. So, rear I/O. BAS flashback button, very nice to see that. So pretty much a common thing now on all AM5 boards that they do have BAS flashback built in as standard. You've got DisplayPort and HDMI. Those are going to come into effect more so when the APUs start coming out. So DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI 2.1. Next up, we've got our fastest USB ports on here. So these are USB 3.2. These are 10 gigabit per second. There's a single Type A and also a Type C connection. Next up, you've got 4 USB 2.0 ports, and the bottom one here is for BAS flashback. It just works as a normal USB port when you're using Windows normally, but when you're trying to do a BAS flashback, that is the port to use. We have done a video on that, on how to update the BAS on this already. I'll try and link that in the video description also. Next up, we've got 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, so those are going to be 5 gigabit per second, and above that you've got the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet supplied by the Dragon LAN, which is the RTL8125 chipset. Next up, we've got the 3 audio jacks, so your normal stuff there. So you've got your green for your headphones, blue for the line, and pink for your microphone. If you want to do some kind of analog system using 7.1 or 5.1 surround sound, then you will have to take advantage of using the front ports as well, which is a little bit messy. I think realistically, like I've said many times before, if you're going for some sort of surround system, generally you're going to use a USB audio DAC. So there we go. There has been a tour of the ASROCK B650M Pro RS, stroke Wi-Fi, if you want to take that into the mix. I think it's a really nice board, and the price I paid for it personally from scan.co.uk, £109, was phenomenal. That was with free shipping as well, so I feel they got an excellent deal here. This is one of the boards, when they first came out, I was looking at this thinking, yeah, I really want to take the plunge on this, but it was quite expensive. They started at about £200 and they've been slowly dropping. They seem to have stabilised around the sort of 130 to 140 mark, so if you can get it below that, then excellent stuff. And I feel with the quality of components on here, the layout, basically it's got everything you could possibly need really. I can't think of anything else you would want. The only thing I think might put off some people is the lack of USB ports on the back and the fact that 4 of them are USB 2.0. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Does it need more faster USB ports? For me personally, I'm preferring to see extra things like M.2 slots. Those are really handy. Of course, with USB, you can add on a hub very easily, but when it comes to adding more drives into a machine, if you don't want to use SATA ports, having the M.2 slots there is very, very valuable in my personal opinion. And again, other quality of life features such as the Diagnostic LED for those boot up times. With a lot of cheaper boards these days, no diagnostics on them whatsoever. We see it every single day in our Discord. People have bought a new system, built it up, turned it on, and they've got no display. And the first thing is, have you got a diagnostic LED? That is the very first question, because those are so helpful for diagnosing problems with systems. Anyway, I've waffled on for way too long. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, then maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, and then you can hit the chime button. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.